Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I want to talk to you about why removing all food rules is something you should do, okay? So I am saying to you in this video, and I've kind of said things similar to this before in older videos, but I wanted to make a new video because I feel like this is something that so many people struggle with, and in our diet industry infected world, this is just kind of the common understanding that if you want to be healthy, if you want to be, even like vegan and helping the planet, if you want to be fit, if you want to be skinny, if you want to be any of these things, you have to set diet rules and you have to follow them, and that's how you're going to get to where you want to go, okay? And we even see this in the health foods world. We even see this in, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. I'm paleo, I'm vegan, I'm raw, I'm all of these things. And it's just kind of like a different and maybe even better intentioned way of still setting diet rules for yourself and setting parameters that we believe are going to give us our desired result, right? So either it's going to make us thin, it's going to make us healthy, it's going to make the planet better, blah, blah, blah. And it's not to say that any of this is wrong, okay? So that's my first things first. It's not to say that any of these diets are wrong or any of these principles are wrong. It's how we approach it with our mind that needs to change, okay? So the first thing you need to understand is that you have a brainstem, okay? And we've talked about this in lots of my videos, and I just feel like I need to do a little refresher on it. So you have a brainstem, which is the oldest part of your brain that was developing when we were out hunter-gatherer, just primal beings in the wild, okay? And it has all of your survival mechanisms wired into it, okay? So it is wired for your survival. That's what it does. That's how it reacts. It is your fight or flight fear response that keeps you alive, all right? So we have that, all right? And then also now, as we've developed and grown and changed and become higher reasoning, higher thinking human beings, we have the frontal lobe, right? We have all of these and all the other parts of our brains that are higher thinking, that are reasoning, that are emotion, that are all of these other kind of not survival-based need functions of the brain, okay? So you need to understand that just because we have all this higher reasoning, higher thinking, higher emotion, empathy, we can see we can understand foresight and we can understand that we have food in our fridge, whatever, it doesn't mean that the brainstem isn't any longer active. Okay, it is still fully active, it is still fully operating, and you need to understand how it works so that you don't try to fight your biology to get to where you want to go, all right? And that is the point of why I'm telling you this today, is that, so when I say, I believe the fastest way to get to where you want to go with your health, with your activism, with your fitness, is to have no diet rules, I am saying that you need to learn how to work with your biology to get to your goal rather than working against it, okay? So when we set a diet rule, I cannot have this anymore. I cannot eat that. This is bad for me. This is good. This food is off limits. These foods make me feel crappy, blah, blah, blah. I cannot have these foods anymore. All you're doing when you do that is activating your brainstem, activating that survival part of your brain that says, oh no, there's a famine. Literally, that's what happens, okay? So you say, I cannot eat cookies anymore. Your brain stem says, there's no more food. That's what it hears, and it goes into fight or flight, right? It says, okay, eat everything now because there's a famine, and we need to protect you from this famine, right? So this is what our bodies does. When our bodies feel like there's a famine, when the brainstem interprets that there's a famine, that means it's gonna get you to try and eat everything in your vicinity to try and help you put on fat stores so that there's something to protect you when the famine comes, right? So the second you say, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have that, or I really shouldn't be eating those things, or though these foods are off limits, all your brainstem hears is famine, which then drives you to go and eat. And this is the most important thing that you need to understand, is that you cannot override your survival mechanism, okay? You cannot override your survival mechanism. So when your survival is triggered, which it is every single time you tell yourself you can't have something, eventually you are going to break and you are going to eat everything that you didn't want to eat. Or you're going to struggle and struggle and struggle and white knuckle your way into being a raw foodist or into being a vegan or whatever. Like, you're just going to be constantly fighting the urge to eat the foods you tell yourself you can't eat, all right? Because this is biology, right? And you can do that, and it will be really hard, and it'll be like a really long battle, and you'll struggle, and you'll constantly go back to foods that you don't want to be eating, and you'll constantly feel like you don't have control, and you'll constantly feel like your body is trying to force you to do these things that you don't want to do. You'll constantly feel like your cravings are stronger than you are, and that's just because they are, right? You can't fight your survival. And even though your brainstem or your forebrain understands that there's no famine, understands that there's no lack of cookies, that there is food around, and that we in the Western world are not in a state where we don't have food. Like, generally speaking, if you're watching this video, you probably are going to have access to food most of the time. Just because our forebrain understands that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't override your survival, okay? So this is why telling yourself that things are off limits, even if they're really foods you don't want to eat, is not the way to go. Setting rules is not how you get there. And I'm telling you this from absolute personal experience, okay? So I know that maybe if you know a little bit about me, like that I am a raw vegan, or that's how I eat, that's not who I am, that you might be thinking this video is pretty hypocritical, because you might be able to look at my eating lifestyle and say, like, I'm very restrictive and I have all of these rules. But the thing is that I'm not. And that is the key, and that is the trick that makes the underlying energy of what I'm doing different from the underlying energy of most people who are trying to diet or trying to lose weight or trying to be healthy or whatever. Because my underlying thing is all foods are available to me. I am allowed to eat whatever I want, okay? There are literally no rules. If I want to eat cookies, I will have cookies. If I want to eat ice cream, I will have ice cream. But, okay, so here's the kicker. Here's the thing that makes this not just have no rules, free for all, eat whatever you want. The question that I always ask myself with regards to my eating is, how do I want to feel? Okay, so all foods are permissible. All foods are on the table. All foods are allowed. Nothing is off limits. But how do I want to feel? That's the only question that I govern myself by. And that is what changes everything. Okay, so that means that I'm not activating my brainstem anymore. I'm not telling myself that there's a famine. So that automatically puts my body into safety zone, right? So when my body is in safety zone, when my mind is in safety zone, understanding there's no off limits, there is abundance, I'm allowed to have whatever I want, everything's available, I can see all the food around me, and I can eat all of it if I want to. I click myself over from fight or flight into rest and digest. And from that place, I can make reasonable, logical, emotional, forward-thinking decisions, okay? Because that's what you need to understand about your survival mechanism, is that your survival mechanism is right now, right here, in this moment. What do I need to do to survive, okay? So that's why it feels like, even though you know bread isn't gonna make you feel good, you can't not eat it, because just right now you have to eat it. Right? Like, when you've told yourself you can't have it, it's like, I need to eat all the bread right now. And I hear this all the time from people, and I've experienced myself. It's like you go into this like autopilot eating mode where you're just like, I'm not even tasting it, I'm not even enjoying it, I'm not even experiencing it. Sometimes you even completely like check out and numb out while you're eating because you're in survival, okay? And that's just not a pleasant place to be for your health. That's not a pleasant place to be for your emotions. That's not a pleasant place to be mentally. That's just not a pleasant place to be, right? So to understand that when you make foods off limits, it seems like a reasonable thing to do, but really what you're doing is you're activating your survival mechanism, and you're making eating very, very unpleasant, and you're setting yourself up to not be able to access your higher understanding, your forward thinking, because survival takes over. Okay? But when you say everything is allowed, I'm allowed to have whatever I want, I'm safe, there's enough food, there is no famine, I am in abundance. You calm this brainstem, right? You're not in fight or flight anymore, and then it opens you up to being able to make the kind of decisions that you want to make. Okay? So that opens you up to saying, okay, I could eat ice cream, but how is that ice cream going to make me feel? Is that ice cream in alignment with my values? Is that ice cream in alignment with the activities I want to do later? Is that ice cream in alignment with like all of these things? And you can then make really clear forebrain decisions about your food, okay? And that's why I'm giving this to you, okay? Because when you stop making any foods off limits, you give yourself the opportunity to make choices from your forebrain, to make really good, really solid, really how do I want to feel choices, okay? You're no longer being driven by your biology, and that's good, okay? You don't want to be driven by fear. You don't want to be driven by survival. You want to be driven by rest and digest. You want to be driven by all things are available. How do I want to feel? What are my values? Who do I want to be here in this world? And that is what this is, okay? So that is it, really. That is kind of the end of it. Take all food labels away. Okay, so that's one more thing that I wanted to say, is that in the beginning, when you first start this, there is a chance that you will say to yourself, I'm allowed to have all the cookies, and you will still want to eat all the cookies, okay? Or I can have all the bread, and you will still want to eat all the bread. But the thing is that when you're not making it I can't situation, that I shouldn't do this, I can't do this, this is bad, blah, blah, blah. If you say, okay, I'm allowed to have all the cookies, and you still want to eat all the cookies, I'm going to tell you, eat all the cookies. But this time, it's not going to be like all the other times where you told yourself you couldn't eat all the cookies and then you ate all the cookies anyways, because that's what happens. This time, you're going to be able to be present. You're going to be able to be with the cookies. And the thing is, you're going to be able to notice how you feel. You're going to be able to notice what's really going on. You're going to be able to notice the taste, and maybe you won't actually eat all the cookies. Or maybe you will, but this time you'll be like, okay, this did not make me feel like how I thought it was going to make me feel. This did not lead me down the path I thought it was going to lead me down. This did not help me numb out. This did not help me do all these things because I was too aware. I was too present. I was not in fear mode. I was in awareness mode, okay? And that, again, is going to help you shift to eventually you're gonna get to a place where maybe you need to let yourself eat the cookies a couple of times until you say, okay, it really didn't give me what I wanted. It really didn't satisfy the need. I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm not going into fear mode anymore. I can make logical decisions about my food now because I'm not in biology, just eating so that I don't die mode. You see? So when you start down this path of everything is allowed, how do I want to feel? Sometimes you are going to eat the things that you didn't want to eat, but you're going to be able to be way more conscious now. You're going to be able to be way more aware now. And this is going to help you, again, make more clear decisions. So this is not like a cure-all, like I tell myself I can eat the cookies and therefore I am guaranteed I'll never want to eat them again. Okay, you might want to. And especially if you've been really, really restrictive, there might come a time where you have to let yourself just eat all of these things that you previously have told yourself you can't, so that eventually you can say, either, hey, it's actually not that bad, I can eat this in moderation, I can have a couple of cookies every once in a while and I can enjoy them and then I can walk away and feel good. Or you'll come to a place where you're just like, yeah, I just don't want to eat the cookies. Right? So like that's kind of how my journey went. Like I let myself just eat whatever I want. I had like a 6-month sort of like free-for-all. It was still totally vegan because I just never really enjoyed animal foods. Like it wasn't, like I never had the craving for that. And that's just my journey. Not to say that that's right or wrong or better or worse. That's just kind of how it was. But I had this time where I broke my raw foodism after my anorexia and I just let myself eat whatever I wanted. And essentially, I just got to this point where I was like, after 6 months, I essentially just went back to a raw foods diet because I was just like, cooked foods just aren't that good, right? Just for me, I just didn't like them. But then again, so now I never struggle to be a raw foodist. I never try. I'm not doing it. I'm not exerting any effort at all. I just am doing it because it feels good. And that's literally it. So that's why I say if one day comes, I want to eat like a cooked pizza or something that's like vegan, I will. It's just not how I want to feel right now. And that's it though. That's why, that's what happened. That was the turning point for me where I stopped struggling with my diet and I stopped struggling with fighting with eating foods that I didn't want to eat or whatever. is because I just said everything's on the table, I'm allowed. And I had to prove it to myself, but it worked, okay? Now I have peace. I have no fear foods. I have no foods that I have off limits that I struggle with or that I binge on or anything like that, because everything's available. I'm allowed. And it will change everything. Sometimes it's just a process, but it will work, okay? So if you want more content like this, I highly recommend that you sign up down below for my free 3-day fucking love your body already challenge. So this is going to be coming out soon, but if you get on the mailing list now, you'll be the first to hear about it when it comes out. So if this is the kind of content that you're interested in, sign up below, and that would be really great. Find me on Instagram, I'm Urban Fruit Bat. Find me on Facebook, Perception Trainers. And of course, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you have video requests, and I will talk to you in the next video.